Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Corner to Corner Wrestling Radio right here live on Spreaker.com. We are live and in, I guess you can't really say we're in living color, huh? Because we're not on video, but that's okay. Hey, Ed, I'm Stan Grubb, and my tag team partner is Rob Hefner. What's going on, Rob?
I'm good. I'm kind of mad that you didn't give us a countdown to going live. You're just like, yeah. Hey, we're live.
Well, you know what? The audio that we play for our intro, that little 30 seconds of techno acts. Sorry, I had to remember what we call it. The 30 seconds that we play of that was not playing in my headset, so I had to guesstimate at 30 seconds. And I'm pretty sure that even if folks heard us, they were probably hearing the music and us talking at the same time. So how about that? We do it live. We do it live for the people. We are not trained professionals. We are just trained monkeys, and that's what we do here on Corner to Corner. I'd like to thank all 6 of you. Increasing from 3 from last week. Now it's 6. We're small but mighty, Rob. If you smell what the rock is cooking. Yes.
Okay, you didn't have to finish that.
Isn't that what he said? Isn't that how it used to go? All right. Anyway. We're just going to shy away from the bad jokes. We're going to step away. Oh, gosh. There's lots of WWE news this week announced on the 15th, which is Thursday. Let's see here. Thursday, the 15th of February. Yes, that is definitely a lot of Fs. Not sure exactly what happened with that, but anyway, 15th of February, we found out that Rich Swann and the WWE had parted ways. Rich Swann was released. Of course, this stems from his, I'm trying to word this delicately, his domestic dispute and his arrest. I think what we will most likely see from that is just basically this is WWE and their zero tolerance policy, keeping their distance following the incident that happened in 2017 with Rich and his wife. I would be willing to bet that if everything gets smoothed out, maybe in a year or two, Rich Swann could make a return. I think he had a good positive relationship with them. And since the charges were dropped, since the case itself did not go to trial or anything, it's not like they would be taking really a big hit.
Well, I mean, this day and time, when you have domestic violence and social media awareness, everybody knew it was coming, that he was going to be fired. People need to handle their problems better than refusing to open the door and keep that way. But, hey, he'll go on, and he'll go on, and life will move on, and just today people got to use their words and not, make better choices, as we say.
Yeah, definitely the choices that were made by Rich and also by Rich Swann and his wife Sue Young. That's a tough situation. You have to be able to react in a way that, honestly, people are going to notice you. They're going to see what you do, and you have to remember that as a celebrity, that's the kind of stuff you run into. I think what we will ultimately see, though, we will see Rich and, like I said, and possibly Sue Young. I would think in the future that she has a potential for a good future there. But I think that Rich Swann will be back. This is very different from the Enzo Amore situation where Enzo basically hid and lied, and regardless of whether or not he's innocent, I know that there's a lot of controversy right now. Some fans feel like Enzo is wrongfully accused, which, hey, we may find out in a few months that he really was. It does happen. I'm not saying that it's impossible. Right now, I think, unfortunately, in the court of public opinion, Enzo Amore has already been found guilty, and he lost his job for hiding the fact that something like this went on. Whereas Rich Swann, on the other hand, it was public record. It wasn't like he could get away from it. So, but that's the unfortunate part of the industry. Any industry, really, any kind of celebrity. If you have that, you're in the public eye. You're under scrutiny. So hopefully, Rich does well on the independents. I'm sure he will. I know that Tommy Dreamer was looking to have him available for House of Hardcore.
Oh, well, that's cool. I mean, yeah, I don't think you can compare. Like, people will, but I don't think you can compare Rich Swann and Enzo Amore. Their situations are totally different. The WWE did what they did because of the history, I believe, with Enzo. The fact that he wasn't upfront and honest with what was going on, but there was already a history there. You know, They had already talked to him several times. There was already heat in the locker room. You know, people, WWE talent had said, he's Enzo 24 hours a day. It's not like he does a different character on television. He's the same on camera and off camera. And they had said that, hey, Enzo's fun, but when you're on a 24-hour flight to Japan, it's not so fun. But that's why I think it's different. With Rich Swann, they were waiting for the public, the police and stuff to do. But in this day and time, with what he was charged with what it was, the WWE with the shareholders and all that can't take the chance. And hey, if it's like you say, down the road, attention gets off of it, things happen, people move on.
I mean, these are the times right now in the Me Too movement. We have a lot of things that are going on in professional wrestling that are coming to light that, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, we would have either not heard about or it would have been, sadly, swept under the rug and hidden. We've heard stories about Vince McMahon and sexually harassing women at a tanning salon. We talked about that story, a few weeks ago, I believe. There's also, lots and lots of different conversation about some, improprieties, some liberties taken on behalf of some of the folks up north as far as what they've done and what they've rumored to have done to other independent talent. But something that came across the old news desk, Twitter, this weekend, is something.
I love the fact that you referred to Twitter as the old news desk.
Well, it kind of seems like that nowadays. Twitter seems to be the place for wrestling news. You don't really find it on a news site anymore, like Lord's Pain, NoDQ, some of those sites. You really don't see it. Sometimes you do. If there's a press release or if there's an interview, they give pretty good press to it. But as far as how it used to be, no, it's really not. A company called AAW. Let me make sure I preface this with the correct company because this is an interesting story. I'm just looking through here. Okay. So, while I'm trying to just double check the company name, we'll go ahead and go over this story. So Michael Elgin.
Citing stories without the sources. Go ahead.
The company name, I just wanted to get it correct, but clearly not going to be able to track that down in a moment's notice. So the story as it goes, Michael Elgin of Ring of Honor and New Japan fame also runs a professional wrestling school. Now, I've never met Mr. Elgin. None of us here at the Triple Threat have. But the story as it goes was he was given information about a potential sexual assault that took place behind closed doors at his school. The girl that had it take place gave him the information, told him what happened, and apparently he had advised that he was going to take care of it. Doesn't take care of it, basically sweeps it under the rug. The news gets out because the girl that has stated it took place goes public with it, because she feels that there's not been any justice. I can't say I disagree. If she's reporting it and nothing else has been done, no one else is taking any steps, that's kind of, like I said, I can understand that. Anyway, the way it breaks down is multiple wrestling companies caught wind of the story and advised that they were no longer going to book Michael Elgin until the situation was resolved. Understandably so. I mean, they felt as if Elgin had betrayed a part of the wrestling world and one of his students and a female, to say the least. None of those things, by the way, is to make light of any of the other. Powerbomb.tv is a pretty prominent streaming service. They have been doing quite well for themselves and getting a lot of independent companies and streaming their products. So when this all comes to light, they initially start by saying, hey, we're not going to be streaming Michael Elgin's matches due to the unfortunate nature of the story. Basically not getting into the controversy, but essentially saying they're not going to stream the matches. Then basically not wanting to support someone who's apparently trying to cover up sexual assault. Over the past few months, seeing DMs from Michael Elgin to her and vice versa, threats. I mean, the whole situation is basically like, sadly, it's almost like a he said, she said. Well, we may never really know what really happened, but the bottom line is because of this situation, multiple promotions are stating they're not going to book him. Powerbomb TV says they're not going to air his matches. These things are continuing to happen, but this past weekend, AAW Showdown did take place, and as a special unannounced guest for the show, Michael Elgin is on the event and booked to wrestle. So fans stand up in the middle of the match, turn their back to the ring, and essentially protest Michael Elgin while he is in the ring. A lot of chants going on as far as during his matchup, shouting F Big Mike. New Japan, coincidentally, signed Michael Elgin to a new 2-year deal. So a lot of controversy going on and a lot of anger from the wrestling community about this situation. Again, and I apologize for not having a whole lot of legal facts, but the situation here is it's kind of tough to really go through. I had some interaction with some promoters last night and some wrestling fans, of course, where basically just saying how bad of a look it is for a promotion to continue to book somebody that's in such a negative light. I mean, Rob, as a parent, as a wrestling fan, and then of course as what we do here, I mean, how do you feel about these types of situations? Once this kind of controversy comes up, is this something you would continue to book someone if you had the opportunity or choice?
No. I mean, we just said in this day and time with this new movements with the society, you can't give credence to it. And in some people's eyes, in my opinion, now this is just me, this is not the opinion of Corner to Corner Brian or Stan. If something like that comes to light, until it's all said and done, until it's all been set out and figured out, you can't, because what they're doing basically is by booking the guy, they're saying they side with that guy. Officially or unofficially, it's like, hey, we booked him. So in other words, you're like, we're kind of letting him, we're helping him out doing this, we're doing him a solid by giving him a gig. But in the eyes of people on the other side of it, they're like, well, wait a minute. This has already been given to you, so why is nothing happening? So that's my opinion anyway. I mean, yes, our society is you're innocent until proven guilty. But in this day of social media, everybody's guilty until proven innocent. I mean, everybody with a phone, everybody with, they can get on Twitter, they can get on this, they can get on whatever, and they can say their piece. So, I mean, the person can be guilty before they're even, and they can be found guilty of stuff that's not even true. You know.
Well, and that's the
So
thing. I mean, what we don't know for sure, and I want to point out to all of our listening audience, one, none of us are stating that we have the full story. That's definitely not the case. We know what's been made light of, or not made light of, but what's been brought to light as far as Twitter is concerned. Looking at the information, I mean, apparently Michael Elgin has filed a lawsuit against Moses Malone, that's the Twitter handle of the woman who accused Elgin of allegedly covering up the sexual assault. Anyhow, with him doing what he feels he has to do, I'm sure he feels justified in his own position. But fans are not going to support a guy that is suspected of covering up sexual assault. They're definitely not going to support a promotion that does that. You see a lot of photos here from Twitter. I'm just looking through the article. This is on Last Word on ProWrestling.com, where you can see this story. And really, fans turning their backs. There's videos of F Michael Elgin, the chant. It's kind of a disgusting deal. I mean, I feel bad for Miss Malone if that's truly what happened. And like I said, I don't know. I haven't had an opportunity to really conversate with her as far as what happened, and that's totally up to her if she would ever want to share that story. But it's unfortunate. I get tired of seeing negative things that happen in pro wrestling, but somebody has to start standing up and making sure that this kind of stuff doesn't continue. And I'm glad to see promotions hold people accountable when they find out these types of stories. So hopefully the truth comes out and it gets worked out. I mean, I would hope that there's some decency in the world and we don't have this kind of stuff happen, but you never know, I guess. So, moving on into some other news. Oh, yes. So, Rob, there is, WWE, we joke about it a lot, that their pay-per-views is basically once every 2 weeks. Well,
right.
Going forward, after WrestleMania 34, WWE will be going back to a one pay-per-view per month schedule, and they have confirmed on WWE.com that from WrestleMania 34 going forward, pay-per-views will be co-branded. In other words, there will no longer be SmackDown only or Raw only pay-per-views. Now they are not ending the brand split, but they've also felt that ticket sales would be better benefited by highlighting each show on each pay-per-view. I kind of agree that the pay-per-view schedule was daunting. I know that every couple weeks we were getting kind of exhausted and run down by the amount of pay-per-views WWE was having. Rob, with Raw and SmackDown on pay-per-view going forward after Mania, is this a good decision, good choice for WWE?
Say it again.
I know, right? I can't talk. Good.
This is a good for you.
Is it a good choice by WWE?
I mean, I think that in this day and time, we've got to, WWE's got to stay relevant, and with them constantly changing and constantly having pay-per-views, there was never really a time to build a storyline. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you would have 2 weeks of this and then 2 weeks of that, and then we're like, all right, well, we know nothing's going to happen on SmackDown for the next 2-3 weeks because their pay-per-view's not for another month.
Right.
At least now, this way, hopefully storylines will stay going on. I mean, of course, hopefully after WrestleMania, we'll have a Universal title that gets defended on a regular basis. And, we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Right. Now, as far as the schedule going forward after April 8th, which is WrestleMania 34, Backlash is in May, Money in the Bank, June, Extreme Rules, July, SummerSlam, of course, is in August, September has Hell in the Cell, October, TLC, Survivor Series in November, of course, and December has Clash of Champions. I will say I'm glad to see Clash of Champions is kept as a pay-per-view name. I think that's pretty cool. Some pay-per-views that we may not see for a while: Battleground and Payback.
Boo.
Yeah, I don't really know that those events were really all that big anyway. And I'm kind of glad to see that WWE is trying to focus a little bit more on uh, kind of condensing, because this report also indicates that pay-per-views apparently will be extended, not including the kickoff shows, Rob. They're going to extend it to 4 hours per pay-per-view.
So basically back to what it used to be.
Right, exactly.
And I think there's something to be said, quality instead of quantity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've said before on this show several times that sometimes these pay-per-views just seem like a glorified Raw, a glorified SmackDown.
Right.
And I mean, my question is, if you're going to have Extreme Rules, you're going to have Hell in the Cell, you're going to have TLC, then does that mean both rosters will have a Hell in the Cell match? Or is it going to be only one roster has a Hell in the Cell match and the rest are all just there? Those are the questions I have. Like, are there going to be TLC matches for everybody? I mean, I do know that, WWE has been known to do Extreme Rules and not be extreme. So,
right.
I mean, it's exciting. I mean, maybe it's going to get down to where they're kind of, I mean, I know that there's going to be some people out there that are going to say, excuse me.
Wow.
As I yawn on live TV, on live radio. But I know people are going to say, well, this is a sign of WWE on the downside, or WWE's going to, are they having trouble? And with any company, sometimes you have to reevaluate what you do. And I truly believe it's going to be quality versus quantity. So, I mean, we could have 24 pay-per-views a year, but if there's only 3 or 4 matches on them, and we do 20, 30 minutes of rehashing every match before the match and why it's happening, or have 4 hours of good matches with a reason and a storyline, and like it used to be,
Yeah, I think that there's something to be said for some continuity, for some logic that could get applied. I mean, of course, this is WWE we're talking about, and we do question the use of logic sometimes with what they do. But I also think that I do wonder, and this is something that I would assume only a writer would really be able to answer, how difficult it has to be to put together. Let's say you put together your format, your plan. You've got it ready by Thursday of the week prior for Raw. You turn it in. Vince is looking it over. You get to Raw. You think it's all done, and then Vince says 20 minutes before the show, nope, we're doing this. And then there you are. I wonder how often it happens on pay-per-view. I mean, it's not a secret that Vince used to do that apparently back during the Attitude Era all the time. And give him credit. Most of the time when he called an audible like that, it did pay off. The problem you run into, I think, with not putting some logic and continuity together, to not keeping storylines moving and making them make sense, is with what we see now, especially with what some would call the millennial wrestling fan, where they just, I'm going to cancel my subscription because I'm unhappy. They get unhappy with what Vince is doing, so they claim they're going to boycott Raw or hashtag cancel the network and all that other dumb crap. But I think the problem you run into, especially as a newer fan, is that this is all you know. So, of course, you'd want to change channels if you could. I mean, back in the day when we could change from Raw to Nitro on a moment's notice, it was easy to find something else on. So now it's unless you've got a membership to every single streaming service, which is $10 a pop per service, which still may be the better deal in town if you do that way.
Well, I mean, it's just again, like, there's pay-per-views that we've watched. There's pay-per-views that we have seen. There's pay-per-views that we wish we'd have never seen. And if you remember back at WCW towards the end, I mean, some of the pay-per-views didn't even make sense. The names.
Yeah,
And the
Sin,
name,
Greed, sold out.
yeah. Or the names of pay-per-views WWE's had over the years. You know, Fastlane, Payback, Roadblock. Like, really? You know, what do we have? We're going to have Payback, Roadblock, Fastlane, canceled. You know, like...
Canceled. I don't
Foreclosure,
know.
you know, like...
Wow. End of the line.
Sold my shares, you know, like...
Oh, wow. That's the Vince McMahon pay-per-view.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, that's the thing about that, is everybody was fussing about, Vince is getting out. He sold his shares. No, he sold like 20% of his shares.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like he sold 300 million or something like that, and that was 20% or so of his shares. You know, like he's just sitting there going, yeah, whatever.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, with the XFL coming back in 2020, which, by the way, seems like an eternity from now, even though really it's just over a year. With XFL planning on coming back in 2020, Alpha Entertainment is Vince's company that he's utilizing for this. Maybe by that point it's Triple H and Stephanie's company. Maybe. But you've got some time between now and then, and with recent reports coming out with the stockholder report, what we talked about last week, here's a tidbit that I had not seen in the initial report. NXT actually lost money year over year from 2016 to 2017. So they're not actually turning a profit solely off of NXT. It's from everything else that's keeping that afloat. That's kind of a shock to me.
I mean, it is a shock that NXT's not making a profit, but when you look at it, you know, when you bring in people like, you know, Adam Cole,
Baby,
and the new era or the Undisputed Era, you know, Bobby Roode, Samoa Joe, you know, you're bringing these guys in. Well, you're not going to be able to bring them in my opinion, on an NXT talent contract roster, you know, money wise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think Adam Cole would be like, all right, I'm leaving Ring of Honor, I'm leaving New Japan because I'm coming to WWE and I'm going to make bare minimum.
Right, exactly.
You know, like you bring them on a contract. Well, then if NXT is your development and you've only budgeted such amount to pay these guys, mm-hmm. and you're only traveling so much, I mean, it's kind of like what Impact does, you know. When Impact, nobody pays for a ticket to see you. How are you going to make money? You know,
you're very true, very true.
So you think Full Sail? They do the shows at Full Sail. They do one show a week. They tape a bunch, and and then they travel every now and then. So that's where the main roster makes their money, is on advertising, and on sponsorships, and on the live events per se. I know there's some cities they hit that don't make a dime, but
well, that's interesting. I mean, with what we've seen lately with WWE and how they put some of these things together, yeah, it's interesting, because you would think that they would make a pretty good amount of money off of NXT, especially with the popularity that it has. But there again, I continue to point at the internet wrestling fandom that complains to the heavens so often of that wrestling is, could be so much better and NXT is the best and la la la. Well, here we are, guys. Here's where the rubber meets the road. You're a wrestling fan. You love NXT, but NXT is losing money. So how much do you really love it?
Well, and also you got to think, one of the biggest revenues for WWE main roster is the commercials off of USA Network.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that NXT doesn't have that ability to get that revenue because it's only on the network.
But they do have the ability to sell tickets, and they do have the ability to sell merch. if you like the wrestling product that's put before you, that's your way. That's your method. It's just like with Roman Reigns. If you don't want to see Roman Reigns in the ring, you don't buy his T-shirts and you don't buy tickets to go to the shows with him on it. That's the way you do it.
But the problem is that I want to see the other people that are on the show.
And I get that. And I wholeheartedly get that. But
I don't buy a Roman Reigns shirt. I didn't even get the one that came in the crate in my size. So, I mean,
that's true.
That's how against Roman Reigns I am.
But that's the thing. The everyday wrestling public will, in my opinion, they do what you and Brian do. You don't like the guy, you don't buy his shirts. You don't get behind him. But you see these folks on Twitter, Facebook, you name the social media outlet, because it's pretty much everywhere now. They go out in droves still and buying his merch and getting in the crowd for his shows. If you don't want to see a promotion do well, do what fans did with Impact for a few years and don't buy tickets. Don't buy merch. But don't complain that you don't like the product that you still support. It's a catch-22. I mean, we complain about WWE, but the bottom line is, let's say WWE closed up shop. All right, WWE's gone. Now we've got Ring of Honor. How often is Ring of Honor in our neck of the woods?
Never.
All right, so we got NXT. Oh, wait, no, WWE's gone, so can't NXT. Impact, when are they around? They're not. They're in Canada.
Never.
House of Hardcore, they're in Philly. Evolve, up in Maryland every now and again. MCW, well, we'll talk about that one in a minute. They just recently had a big meet and greet with Ric Flair and the Horsemen. That you got to look on Facebook, because, man, some of the press on that isn't good. Guys and gals, if you're in the wrestling community as fans or as supporters of the industry, or even if you're trying to get in, you have to do something about it to make it work. It's just how it works, man. It's simple business. The guys up at Nova Pro, our friends in UCW, the folks that are in big time wrestling that do the shows out towards West Virginia, all of these different promotions that are doing well are working their asses off. And they're listening to their fans, which is really the key. I mean, I don't know another company that listens to their fans as much as some of the local companies that we've done business with. That's really, that's a big sign to me that says these people care.
Well, and that's the thing. A wrestling fan is a wrestling fan. It's not going to matter what wrestling you watch if you're a wrestling fan. That's why you and I and Brian do the show. That's why we help out with UCW. That's why we go see. That's why we've been to Nova Pro. That's why we went to the Scenic City. That's why we've been to MCW. That's why we've been to, NXT. That's why we've been to WWE. I mean,
yeah,
pretty much. If we can get there, realistically, we'd like to go see wrestling.
Right.
I mean, there was a time that the big two, WCW and WWE, there was a time that whenever they crushed the threshold of the Commonwealth, we were there.
Very true.
If they were in Richmond, in Charlottesville, or in D.C., or in Fairfax, we were there. I remember times of us sitting around contemplating, all right, should we go to Norfolk? Should we go to should we go to Norfolk? Should we go to Virginia Beach?
Go to Roanoke or Stanton for some of the shows that they did out that way, yeah.
But then, because we're wrestling fans, you've got people that want to sit there and they watch nothing but WWE, and they want to say that they're God's gift to the wrestling expert, but then they don't go help the guy that's 5 minutes down the road. They've got a wrestling promotion that's doing a show. These guys, some of them have been there, some of them are trying to get there. Well, you're never gonna. Local wrestling's never gonna get off the ground if the fans don't realize, one, it's not the World Wrestling Federation. It's not, World Wrestling Entertainment. It's not, Ring of Honor, New Japan, but you can see just as good wrestling in a small setting. Because you and I both agree, like we've seen the ladder matches for Jeff Hardy, and we've seen the ladder matches. Oh, I mean, you all name it, a wrestling match. We've seen it, the ladder matches, by the way. But then there we are, Nova Pro, 2 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
And we're sitting front row to Chet Sterling and Logan LaRue.
Right.
In a ladder match. And it's like, to me, that was probably one of the best ladder matches that I've ever seen. And I was right there.
That was, those kind of moments, you can't buy them. You really can't. I mean, especially local promotions, indie wrestling, professional wrestling at your regional levels, territorial levels, is where it's at. Being in the front row, being there, seeing it live and in living color right there in front of you is the best. And yeah, I agree. Chet and Logan had a tremendous ladder match. Still haven't forgiven Logan for shoving me out of my seat, but that's okay.
He did not shove you. All he did was ask you politely to get up.
Yeah. With his hand. Pardon me, sir, would you mind moving out of this chair while I shove you? See how I did that?
It's all right. Example. That goes back to the first thing we talked about. That goes back to the first thing we talked about. People see what they want to see and they hear what they want to hear.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm that fan, is what you're saying. Oh, wow. This is awkward. Okay. Well, all right, that's going to do it for Corner to Corner. I'm just kidding. You cannot get rid of us that easy. I mean, no, really, you're not. It's not going to happen. Let's keep going with some news here. WWE has plans for Ronda Rousey's tag match at WrestleMania 34. That's right. Ronda Rousey this Sunday expected to sign her WWE contract as far as on TV, and making an announcement as to who she intends to face. Report is that they're going to continue to follow up on the storyline that was started the year before last, as The Rock apparently they're looking to have The Rock tag with her to face Triple H and Stephanie. However, expectation is, due to different negotiation issues, most likely insurance related for The Rock filming different movies, they're looking to fill in the gap if The Rock's not available. So, being considered as a backup plan, some of these are kind of cool. Shane McMahon seems like an obvious choice, but I'm not so sure that'd be very good. Seth Rollins, I think that could be cool. Or Kurt Angle. Man, what a cool team, Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey. That'd be neat.
That's probably the best one out there if you can't get The Rock versus, But I mean, it would make more sense with The Rock. But then again, if you've looked him up on any website of his movie making, that he has like 18 projects in the works.
Right.
So I mean, he literally probably doesn't even live in a house. He probably just goes from one movie set to a movie set. But it makes no sense. They made the big deal, like she signed, and now they're like, all right, well, she's going to sign her contract at the Elimination Chamber. What?
Yeah, it's a little bit more pomp and circumstance than I need, to be honest. I would have rather they just had her come out on Raw, make her presence felt, and then start whatever storyline they have. But I get it. You got to cash in while you can. I mean, clearly WWE has made their money off of this announcement with Ronda, with Ms. Rousey. And I think they're looking to capitalize in a big, big way. Hopefully it turns into something good. But at this point, I don't know.
I mean, think about it. If they're looking long term, which they don't, they signed Ronda Rousey. They say she's going to Raw, right?
That's the report. Yes.
Well, we've already got one female built unbeatable on Raw.
Mm-hmm.
Do we really need two? Because I mean, it's. I was having this discussion with somebody the other day, and he brought it to light. Is like, if you're going to have Rhonda on Raw, there's really no place for Rhonda and Asuka on the same roster. You know, I mean, because eventually you're going to have to put Ronda versus Asuka.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have Asuka take on Alexa Bliss or whoever at Mania for the title, eventually it's going to be Asuka and Ronda Rousey for the title. And how could any one of those, this early in Ronda's career, which one could survive? You know, character-wise.
That's the thing. Like, there's that, and there's also the question of, well, if you're Asuka as a character, you know, from a storyline perspective, Asuka selects Alexa Bliss instead of Ronda Rousey. Wouldn't the good guy in Asuka want to take on what would be perceived as the bigger challenge in Ronda Rousey?
Right.
And that is, it's like slapping herself in the face because she's now screwed. If she takes Alexa Bliss, it's like, well, it's a granted she's going to beat Alexa Bliss. And makes their title match look less important. And Ronda Rousey faces Stephanie, who, while she is, you know, she is Stephanie McMahon, but she's also Stephanie McMahon in the ring, and it's just not going to be very good. So I don't understand why they do that.
It's just like when they would bring, you know, when they had Shane McMahon versus, you know, whoever he fought last year at Mania. You know, what is the purpose?
Right.
You know, I would say the only reason you would have Stephanie and Hunter, and then you would put in, you know, Ronda. The only way you do that is if The Rock can be in the angle, because it's the only way it pays off, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I was thinking about is, you've built Asuka up to be this unbeatable, you know, she's going to be 20 million and one or whatever when she loses.
Right.
But can Alexa Bliss's character withstand losing to Asuka? Will it be just a bump in the road, or could this be one of those, you know, kryptonite kind of losses that Alexa Bliss's character can never get over?
That's an interesting point. The impact of Asuka losing is one thing, but Alexa Bliss in this situation, really, Alexa has been really, really good in the role that she's at. But if she loses to Asuka, if she's not champion, I mean, do you just pack her up and send her back to SmackDown? How do you do that? Because, Rob, you have a great point. How does Alexa Bliss how does she recover from that kind of a loss if it happens? I mean, clearly WWE is going to do what they can to make as much out of the situation with Asuka as they can. But Alexa has been very consistent as a performer. And you run a risk of losing some of that momentum with her. I can see why it's a tough decision for those that are in that position to make that call.
I mean, I can see, like, again, I was talking to somebody the other day, and we kind of came up with, you put Alexa Bliss, Nia Jax, and a third person in the ring. I don't know if you put a Mickie James or you put somebody in there for a triple threat at the pay-per-views leading up to WrestleMania.
Right.
It would probably be, I guess it's not, it is this one. The way to do it is Alexa loses at Elimination Chamber. So then she's not the champion that faces Asuka.
Mm-hmm.
All right? You have Nia Jax or Mickie James be the champion that faces Asuka at WrestleMania. See, Mickie James goes into Mania, one last run as world champ. She loses. her legacy is cemented already.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she can afford to lose to Asuka. You know, because her career wouldn't suffer. Nia Jax could lose to Asuka, and it would not kill her momentum.
That's a good point.
That's just, if you have Alexa Bliss lose to Asuka, I mean, Charlotte Flair could lose to Asuka and it not kill her. You know, because Charlotte Flair has that character. She has that stuff behind her that it's like, all right, she's, you know, I mean, her and Sasha Banks went back and forth, and Becky Lynch went back and forth for how long? And
Yeah.
Charlotte didn't lose anything. They're like, you know, it was like Sasha would win it on Monday, or win it at the Sunday, lose it on Monday. She'd win it on Sunday, or, you know, win it on Sunday, lose it on Monday, you know, vice versa. It was just, and so there we go. It. I mean, that's just what I think, anyway.
I think that I totally understand why anybody would want to have hesitation about putting Asuka in a position where she's not really facing what, in my opinion, would be a larger box office draw, and also why you would want to make sure that you protect, you know, ladies like Alexa Bliss and you know, things that are similar in that regard. I mean, I think that Alexa is one of those champions that is beneficial to their company. I think Asuka is the heir apparent. They know that, but it's like you have to make a decision as to who you're going to actually put down to move up, kind of thing, and that's definitely a tough call. Hey, so here's a quick question, kind of changing gears. As we look towards WrestleMania weekend, you know, independent companies are doing multiple events that weekend, capitalizing on the crowd that will be there in New Orleans. Impact Wrestling is one of them. They're going to be participating in WrestleCon, and they're going to be streaming their event live on Twitch the same night of the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I don't know why it is that companies feel they have to try to put something head-to-head with an event like the Hall of Fame. Like, I understand doing your shows the same weekend, the same week, the same area, the same town. All of that makes sense to me. But live streaming an event like WrestleCon, which I'm sure will draw people to the website to watch. I'm not saying it won't get watched. But during the Hall of Fame, to me, that just seems like, why would you want to do that? That just seems kind of, to me, it seems cheap. But I guess it really will, depending on what they bring from that, it could help them out.
Well, I mean, again, I don't see why. I agree with you. I mean, I think when it comes to going up head-to-head with WrestleMania week, go ahead. Do what you're going to do. But when it comes to the Hall of Fame ceremony, there's no one on that Impact roster that wouldn't want to be in the WWE Hall of Fame one day.
Mm-hmm.
And just imagine that it's their turn to take their walk across that stage, to get that ring, to have that speech. But, oh yeah, some company that's barely holding on is going to blast it on, you know, I'm going to stream a show, and there's going to be some people that are going to turn, and there's going to be people that, you know, so it's like, even in your moment, somebody's doing something to take shine away.
Right.
You know, and one thing we've learned is you don't take shine away from the veterans.
No, you don't.
You know?
That can get you burned.
And you've got Goldberg, the Dudley Boys, and Ivory have been announced.
Well,
and they're guaranteed it. Huh?
I was just about to say, how cool is it to see Ivory getting in?
Right. I mean, you've got those getting in for what Devon and Bubba Ray did for Impact. You know?
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, for the Bully Ray gimmick in Impact was money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what kept that company going for a while, the Aces and Eights. You know?
I agree.
And And oh wait, hey, you're finally getting your day, but we're gonna not even pay attention to you.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. You want the attention of wrestling fans they're hyped up for Mania. They're hyped up for the week. Mania week is always a big deal. I get it. The folks that have been announced for this event so far are the Impact World Champion Austin Aries, Tag Team Champions LAX, Grand Champion Matt Sydal, Alberto Del Patron, boo, Eli Drake, Moose, Rosemary, Sammy Callahan, Eddie Edwards, Trevor Lee, Caleb Conley, Allie, Taya Valkyrie, and Teddy Hart. I didn't know Teddy Hart was part of Impact. Wow, good for him. He's a guy that's had a rough run through the industry, so that's good for him. Glad to see that he got on board. But yeah, it to me it's like a cheap shot. I don't know that. Is it really going to take away from the weekend? No. I mean, people aren't going to necessarily. I don't anticipate people turning off the Hall of Fame, en masse. But at the same time, I think it's just a dumb move. It just doesn't help people.
I mean, if it comes down to me, or what am I going to watch? Am I going to watch Impact, or am I going to watch a Hall of Fame induction? I'm going to watch the Hall of Fame induction.
Right.
But
exactly.
It's still, I mean, there's going to be people who are in town, and now it's like, wait a minute. I was going to go to the Hall of Fame, but that's not wrestling, and I want to see wrestling. So,
right, exactly.
It's just, to me, it's like when you're not invited to somebody's party, so you decide to have your own party at the same time they're having theirs. And you're like, come on, man, I'll have better cupcakes at my party, and whatever. You're still going out of business one day. It's just, you just won't admit it.
Whatever.
I mean, personally, I don't think that they should, have an event on the same night as their future library owner. Anyway, that's not nice.
Look, your future boss doesn't want you doing a show, so you're just going to have to stop it.
Because think about it. In the library, where's Impact going to follow? Right after Hall of Fame. H and I. Hello.
Well, there's that, and then there's, the whole distinction of companies that tried but failed.
Mm-hmm.
The rise and fall of Impact. It's going to be a great 3-disc DVD.
Yeah, WWE's already got it written.
They do. They've already got the different introspectives with Dixie Carter and stuff. Since she's not there anymore, they've already got them filmed.
They're just waiting for the last disc of the bonus disc. That's all they're doing. Is they're like because they want to get the last match of Impact on their bonus disc.
Is it? You think it would be like an episode of? It won't even be an episode of Raw. It'd be an episode of SmackDown or Main Event, where Shane McMahon shows up at Impact, where Daniel Bryan's like, "I've purchased Impact Wrestling."
No, what's going to be bad is whoever they use is going to walk out and be like, you know what? I've purchased Impact to make it. You know what? Never mind. This place sucks.
You're all fired.
Go to the best of Smoky Mountain.
Folks, that's going to do it for us. Let's go to Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
What do you got for us, Jim Cornette?
Oh, my God. I think Cornette would have a fit. So, coming up on Monday is the go-home show for the Elimination Chamber. And 7 men will be in the Elimination Chamber match, which I swear that's going to be a cluster. But also, Monday night, it's going to be a gauntlet match. Are you excited for this? A gauntlet matchup.
Stupid.
I mean, you may have been wondering what's Stan leaving out. No, that's it. All 7 guys from the chamber are going to be running the gauntlet.
Well, because they have an odd number, so they can't do the 4-on-4 tag team match that they're going to do, or the
Oh no, we got a multiple person matchup. We've got the 6-man tag between the ladies.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, it's. I mean, come on.
You start to wonder if the formula gets played out. If you're just like, let's do a tag match. Where's Teddy Long? We need a tag match.
It's like somebody lost the booking sheets and they only have one left. So like they keep using the same one of like, all right, well, it's a mixed match, oh, well, this is a 6-man challenge. This is an 8 tag. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Wait a minute. How many pods are in the Elimination Chamber? All right. So we're going to take, there's so many pods. So we're going to do twice as many people. So then we can have believability as 2 wrestlers are in the same pod at the same time, and both of them don't jump out at the same time. You know?
That's going to be such a cluster.
I mean, that's what I would do if I was in Elimination Chamber. Hey, the pod door opens. Hey, Elias, you're supposed to go last. No, buddy. Pow! You're going first.
Well, I mean, back in the day when they first did it, you could throw somebody through the chamber door and all that stuff. And then as they changed it and made it so, like, didn't they make it so the referees kind of pulled the doors open from the outside?
Yeah, they pull the doors from the outside, yeah.
Yeah. I just... Wow. I wonder if it's going to be played out and it's just going to suck.
Well, Roman Reigns is in it, so yes.
Oh, cheap shot.
Elias is in it, so yes.
Yeah, I'm not a big... I wasn't a big Braun Strowman fan, though, and now I enjoy him because he just gets funnier every time he goes out there. Is it just a... Are we becoming those old grumpy fans?
No, it's because we see what is... The problem I see is we're the fans that can sit back and... We've seen it before. We've seen we've seen how things can be done, and we watch exactly how, it's like they're almost right there to have the best pay-per-view that we've seen in years, and then, oh, no, they don't. Like, they have Elimination Chamber. The people they have on that show to put in Elimination Chamber, right? They could put in Elimination Chamber. But let's not put Finn Balor in. Let's not give Matt Hardy some cred because of the whole Woken gimmick. No. Let's put Elias in. Let's put, oh, wait a minute. Let's put both people in it. It just makes no sense. Because Finn Balor's in it, isn't he?
Yeah, Balor's in. Balor's only in because of the botched double pin finish that I guess was all part of their plan from the very beginning. Like, what? So Balor's in the chamber. Seth Rollins is in. Elias is in. Basically everybody that was in the qualifying matchups is in, except for Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy.
Yeah. So Bray Wyatt's curse still stands.
Right.
We're doing the whole Matt Hardy broken, he's the Woken gimmick. Mm-hmm. Well, eventually he's going to become broken because this thing that was gold on Impact, this thing that was gold on the local indie circuit, is going to become poop because WWE is going to try to put their finger on it and instead of letting Matt Hardy do what he did best.
Yeah, I think it's just you took something that is easily one of the most entertaining storylines that you could have with broken Matt Hardy, and you've turned it into it's so hard to be nice about some of these things sometimes. You've turned it into like a bad joke. And the thing is, it was lightning in a bottle for when it happened. It was a magical kind of thing that you just can't replicate. So part of me kind of wishes that they just never went down that road. not because Matt Hardy's not damned entertaining, because he is. The broken gimmick for Matt Hardy is great. But WWE, with them not wanting to put any true attention to it, and, they feel, they being whoever is in charge, they feel by putting him in a segment on television that really does him justice. A fan perspective is going to tell you that, well, all right, well, that's great, but he's also supposed to have, some degree of mystery to him, some kind of comedy. I mean, they miss those opportunities because they put him in 3 to 5 minute segments rather than what he had on Impact, which was 10 to 15. WWE just doesn't have that kind of liberty with those kind of segments, so that's where broken Matt Hardy just doesn't get what I think we would see as valuable television time.
Oh, I mean, it's just, I think to a point we've always seen is WWE, when you have a bona fide something outside of WWE. You take an example, Matt Hardy, you take example, Finn Balor, you take in Gallows and Anderson, Shinsuke Nakamura, Samoa Joe. You've got these bona fide guys outside of your company. There's a certain point that WWE only wants to release so much control of these people because they know it gets to a certain point, then they won't have a say in what happens. And with Matt Hardy, they put him back in there. I truly believe the only reason Matt Hardy is back in the WWE is because of the broken Matt Hardy gimmick. Because that was so popular and got so over, and he redefined himself so much that WWE is like, hey, what has he done? This is awesome. And then not to let him do it,
Well, you had the issues with Impact basically threatening to sue him if he did it. So they kept that away from him at that point. Then Impact finally gave in and said, no, we're going to let you keep it. It's yours. Whatever decision they came to. And now probably because WWE doesn't really want to pay for it, and I honestly can't say I blame them, but the woken Matt Hardy thing, to me, woken, broken, I could care less about the adjective. I think it's more along the lines of the delivery, and I think that's where it kind of falls short. But if Matt Hardy was on SmackDown, for example, he would get a little bit more TV time, I think, but you have so much going on, so many different people. Like right now, we were just talking about the Chamber and how 7 guys in the Chamber is going to be a cluster. But all of these guys are main event level guys except for Elias. And Elias is getting a big rub right now because John Cena is probably high on the guy. I mean, Cena has been giving him some great spotlight moments. I will say that the Who Wants to Walk with Elias segments that he does on Raw are entertaining. I'm not a believer yet. Maybe it's going to take me some time to hop on whatever bandwagon that is. I don't know. But I think that you're so top-heavy in WWE that it's difficult to finally make that switch. I mean, we're waiting for WrestleMania to be finished so that Brock Lesnar can go back to UFC and possibly we see the Universal title gain some traction as a major belt. I mean, there's not really a guarantee that that's going to happen because everything we have right now is speculation. We know that at this time last year, the plan was probably being formed for Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar at this year's WrestleMania. So, I mean, that's how long ago this storyline was being laid out. It's a concern, but it's a concern, but it's also one of those things that we could end up, seeing something switch, hopefully, like the night after Mania and things like that. Maybe we get we'll see what we get things going.
Well, I mean, this is where I have the problem of, one, you put your main title on a part-time guy.
Right.
Now, granted, it's the same thing they used to do with Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
Hogan would have the title, and he wouldn't defend the title except at a couple of the big pay-per-views. You know, because think about how many times Hogan was at a pay-per-view or Hogan was somewhere and he was in a tag match, or he had the Survivor Series. You know, back when they did the Survivor Series, then Hogan was on a team. They didn't have any individual matches. But, I mean, you have your title being defended part-time. You've got such an influx of main event caliber talent.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting lumped all together because it's like, you know, here we go. We have all these guys that can have awesome matches on their own, but instead of giving them this time to do it on their own, we're going to lump them all together because we have to keep the storyline that we promised, you know, ourselves 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
That we talk about how, you said earlier, it must drive the writers crazy that Vince changes things on the fly. Well, there's things he doesn't change. You know, like if we're destined to see Brock versus Roman, well, the writing's on the wall. You can see it. You know, Brock has the belt. The best thing, in my opinion, for them to do right now. See, Brock's not in Elimination Chamber, is he?
No, Brock won't even be there. Brock isn't scheduled to be back in WWE until the night after.
See, to me, the best thing they could do is put Brock in the Elimination Chamber and have Brock lose. Shake it up.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Or he should have lost last month, at the last time when it was Brock versus Kane versus... Because Braun could have beat Kane and saved Brock. You know, just same way they did where Brock beat Kane to save Braun.
Mm-hmm.
They could have done it backwards. Then you could have had Braun versus Brock at WrestleMania. Who the hell wouldn't want to see that?
Yeah, that would have actually been a pretty good matchup at Mania. I think rolling the dice on some of this stuff is a good decision. I think there's a fear of taking a risk, which is disappointing. You know, you wish that they would take more risks, but yeah, I guess they just get nervous about it. They get scared, and perhaps they just don't have enough confidence that it would take off. So, Rob, there was an event over the weekend. We hinted at it with Maryland Championship Wrestling. Brian actually had the opportunity to go to MCW and to meet the Nature Boy Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen. Woo! Barry Windham was there, J.J. Dillon, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson. And by all accounts, he was happy to have gotten an opportunity to meet one of the greatest of all time. That's where one part of the story ends, but another part of the story begins. MCW apparently was getting a lot of negative fan feedback from the event because of the way that some of the communication was for some of the lines and some of the crowds. And there was some frustration as to how it was handled as far as some of the guys working the event, as far as the staff handling the cues and everything. It's got to be a tough deal to set up a meet and greet that size, because you know the popularity of Flair and the Horsemen is huge. It's got to be a tough deal to really set up appropriately and to anticipate the size of the crowd.
Well, I mean, I will say this, that we know what MCW has as space-wise.
Right.
To me, and I don't know if they did it, but it would seem like the thing that you would do would be, you would have, all right, everybody's paid for the VIP meet and greet to see the Horsemen. Then you set it up in the other area around the strip mall, right?
Mm-hmm.
The flea market area. And then you have the line snake through there, so therefore it doesn't impact your wrestling event.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that the complaint wasn't just because, I mean, some of the complaint was that I've heard was, and they weren't all from, you know, it was from other people that were there, was, you know, they were waiting in line, they were watching, and numerous times MCW staff would cut in front of somebody waiting in line to get autographs to get stuff signed that was already there.
Right.
I mean, to me, that stuff should be handled back behind the scenes, and the public should never see it.
Right.
Because I paid my money if I paid my money to see Ric Flair and those guys, then by golly, I want to get my stuff signed, and I want to be able to see them. I don't want to be, here's your stuff and go. Because that's basically what it gets to in some of these lines, And we've all been there and seen these lines, to where that we see that where it's like they're not even worried or interested in corresponding with the fans. It's sign, go, sign, go, sign, go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where some of the complaints that I'd heard come from. It didn't seem like, some of the wrestlers were interested in seeing you, but then also, it didn't seem like, you paid money to see the Horsemen. By God, they should at least give you the common decency to act like they were interested in seeing you.
Yeah, that was some of the pictures I saw. I know that's got to be a long day. A long day to sit down and pose for pictures and sign. That's a long time. I mean, those events start, the VIP portion start at 11 o'clock in the morning. And I know that Brian was in line and all that around the evening time. So, I mean, that's a long day for these guys. I don't know how they normally set it up with breaks. Hey, I am definitely not the promoter that set that up, and I'm not saying that I could have done it 100% better or worse. I'm just saying that you got to find a way to communicate with your crew. Hey, let's make sure these fans are treated great. Let's make sure that the stars that are here to be, celebrated and to sign are treated good and get a break here or there. Whatever we got to do to make sure these guys and these fans are happy, that's what's most important. And I get it. I understand why it would frustrate fans because, you're paying a lot of money. These meet and greets for like the Horsemen and the upcoming one in April for Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash, they're not cheap. Granted, some of this is a pretty cool deal because you get autographs, you get pictures, and it's not just one autograph, you're getting multiple. And you have an opportunity to meet multiple stars. So the opportunity itself is still pretty cool, but you got to try to find a way. I mean, and you got to allow for the unexpected. I think when you set up an event like that and the stars magnitude that you have, because the complete Four Horsemen with Ric Flair, JJ, Tully, Barry, Arn, that is a huge moment. So, yeah, it's going to be stressful. You're going to have road bumps or speed bumps. You just got to find a way, and I think that's something they can improve on. And I do anticipate going in April. I'm looking forward to meeting Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash, and that's going to be one of those things where I hope that they're able to put it together and have it organized.
Yeah, and I mean, it all depends, and it goes in whatever, because when we were up there and we saw the Hardys, and the whole Broken family was there,
Mm-hmm.
They were all there. It didn't seem to impact anything really bad. I mean, granted, seeing them compared to seeing the Horsemen's a whole different argument. The one thing I remember is, like, they had the whole line for Matt Hardy and all them, and I look over in the corner and there's Nikolai Volkov with nobody.
Right.
So I was like, hey, Nikolai, But another thing I remembered was there's only one line for the concession stand, and that line at towards intermission was all the way back to the entrance into the arena where the seats are.
Yeah.
I mean, little things like that. But and I guess I come from a different mindset of talent is getting paid money to be there. You're getting paid money to sign autographs. Yes. they are all getting up there in age, you know. Um, but it's like people paid to see you.
Mm-hmm.
These people's money is what is keeping your lights on. It's what you know, and the way you react to these fans is what's going to keep them coming to see you. You know, I mean, you and I both have people that, you know, like that you've had interactions with that you'd pay to get their autograph again just because of the interaction you had with them the first time.
Right, exactly.
But you spend all this money to get Ric Flair's autograph. Yeah, granted, Ric Flair's like, hey, you know, I'm Ric Flair, damn it. But
Yeah.
I'm paying, like, I wouldn't pay, like, you treat me, if you don't give me the time of day, then I'm not going to pay to get your autograph again, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You know, you got my money once, but you know what? I'd be damned if you get my money again.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean,
And that's 3 dams, by the way.
you get an opportunity to meet these guys. You know, you always hear the old saying is "never meet your heroes" kind of thing, because you never know, they could turn out to be real jerks. You know, I've seen experiences of both types. I think that every person, every celebrity, every, you know, hero, however you want to word it, is owed a certain amount of respect, and also has earned the right to have a bad day, just like anybody else. But I agree, if you're being paid a pretty good sum of money to be there and to celebrate with fans and to sign and all that, yeah, I think you owe it to them to be there and to be engaged and to really be in the event that you're taking part in. And I agree. I think that's frustrating for fans that show up to these events and basically get like a yeah thanks, keep it moving. You know, I mean, it's
You know, it's like, it reminds me of back when I was a kid, and I am a lifelong NASCAR fan. Okay. Mm-hmm. I was a Richard Petty fan from way back, you know, and my dad never would take me to meet those type of things. You know, that just wasn't him. He didn't like crowds. He didn't like lines. But my dad came and got me out of school one day and took me down to Richmond to meet Richard Petty at an Advance Auto Parts. We waited all day. And I got, you know, 5-10 feet away from from him when his handler goes, nope, no more autographs. We're done. All right. Well, that's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't buy a ticket, you're not guaranteed an autograph. So my dad kind of moves to the side. And as we're standing there on the side, Richard Petty gets up and starts walking over towards us to go out. Well, my dad and I have my hand out, and Richard Petty, I could see him taking the top off the Sharpie pen, right, to reach over. Well, right about the time he reached for my picture, my hand was slapped by a handler, and they pushed me away, and they said, "We said no more autographs."
Oh, wow.
Well, as a kid in middle school or elementary school, that devastated me. Like, I went home and I'm like, I'm never going to watch racing again. I'm done. And, you know, I loved food, and my sister knew something was up because I didn't eat for 2 days. I was just, that was like my childhood hero. And it was like, I was told no, you know? And so my sister wrote to Richard Petty and his people and told him what happened, and I eventually got an autograph picture in the mail. But, you know, it's that initial experience. If you have had your lifelong dream is to meet the Horseman,
yeah,
and you go and you wait in line, and they don't give two shits about you. They don't even ask you who you are or how you're doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we've all seen it different. Like when we were at the NWA Legends Fest in Charlotte,
Mm-hmm.
there were some people. There would be some people that I would stand in line to watch. I would pay for Jimmy Garvin's autograph any day.
Oh yeah, he was a hell of a guy.
I mean, that man talked to everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to, some of the others that I met then, not going to happen. I mean, Nikita Koloff took time to pray with the guy in front of me. He looked at the guy and he says, "You know what? I want to pray for you." Bam.
Yeah.
But then you got other ones that were there that are like, yeah, whatever. Move on.
Yeah, they are these situations that you run into as a wrestling fan, as a fan of any celebrity really, but you get an opportunity to meet somebody on an upper echelon, and they're either gonna make your day or break your heart. There's no in between, it seems. There were guys at the event in Charlotte that, like Rob said, that were tremendous. Jimmy Garvin is a great example of that. Jim Ross was another one who was just so nice. Velvet Sky, Mickey James, who said something, was very sincere in their gratitude. They wanted to be taking part and enjoying their time with the fans. And then, you got the feeling that some of them just wanted to be there, but maybe were a little stressed out. And then, of course, you have examples of guys that just don't want to be there, and they kind of sit there like a bump on a log, and yeah, thanks for coming, sign. Yeah, thanks for coming, sign. I mean, it just, it sucks because as a fan, that just crushes you. And like I said, everybody's entitled to a bad day, but I happen to agree if you're getting paid a pretty good amount of money to sit at a table and sign, you should probably be grateful that you're getting paid a good amount of money to sign.
I mean, because, I hate to say it like this, but, there's people that do a whole lot more and get a whole lot less.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just said about a NASCAR story. Well, I'm still a NASCAR fan. And like Kevin Harvick tweeted out a picture one day. He's like, well, this is what I got to do today. And he showed a table from, I would say, those big, long 8-foot tables, about 9 of them down a wall with die casts stacked 3 high, 4 deep on that table. And he says, I got to sign them all before I go home. And he's like, for all those fans wanting to know your stuff, I know it's on my list and I'll get to it. Like he's just letting you know, hey, you're sending something in to get signed. I'm going to sign it.
Yeah.
Not, well, where's my $20? And so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough deal. And like I said earlier, I think that MCW will take from this experience as they do with each event and make adjustments and go forward. I have every confidence that they will do whatever they can to make it right. I don't personally think that that the Horsemen or Flair, any one of them, truly didn't want to be there, but I could certainly understand if they're just sitting there for hours on end, them getting frustrated and getting tired, and then eventually saying, yeah, maybe I don't want to be here anymore. I get that. I mean, that's a scary kind of stress that as you get older, you don't want in your life, and I get that. But so moving on, Flair was on 98 Rock in Baltimore before the event, and I thought I'd bring this up because I thought the topic was pretty cool. Flair was talking about who he thinks the modern Four Horsemen would be, and he had an interesting foursome, Rob. This may make your day. The first guy he would take is Dolph Ziggler. The second guy would be Seth Rollins. Third guy, he says, let me think, Horseman requires a lot. Got to be good at what you do, got to be able to enjoy life. He says, I think Roman Reigns. Roman's a trooper. And then the fourth guy, Randy Orton.
I thought you said this was supposed to make me happy.
I just think, I think that.
I mean, the only one that I was like, hey, that's interesting was Dolph Ziggler.
Well, I think Flair has always had a certain, like a soft spot for Dolph as far as his workability. I think, honestly, it kind of surprised me he didn't say Miz.
Now, see, I would have said Miz, Dolph Ziggler. I would not put Roman Reigns in the Four Horsemen. I would not put. I mean, you already had Randy Orton in Evolution.
Which I'm of the camp that Evolution sucked, by the way. I did not like that stable.
But it was the WWE's poor attempt at the Four Horsemen.
Poor is right.
Without calling it the Four Horsemen. You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, that'd be... the Four Horsemen, you need two people that can tag up. You need two people that are singles. You need a main event caliber person. Seth Rollins, I could see Seth Rollins in the Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
I could see you do Seth Rollins, The Miz, and then you put in the Revival.
Oh.
There you go. We just did it.
Woo! We are awesome.
Or The Miz, Seth Rollins, and the Undisputed Era.
Ooh, that is actually very cool. I like that idea.
Because then their catalyst could be Adam Cole.
Baby!
Because Adam Cole could play the Sting role of the spoiler to the fun.
That's true.
But he has enough pull with the audience.
I wonder if... See, Adam Cole is so crazy popular in NXT right now. And he's part of the Undisputed Era, which is supposed to be bad guys. I wonder if Adam Cole's popularity would translate on the main roster. If they could do that. You know what I mean? Like, would he be able to... Mm-hmm. Obviously, Adam Cole's talent is going to carry him whomever he's in the ring with. But would his popularity carry over, like, if he's feuding with a guy like The Miz? Like, say The Miz is the leader of that group. Man, that actually could work.
I think Adam Cole could feud. I mean, it's just Adam Cole.
Right.
It's just like Finn Balor.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless if he's the Demon, if he's Balor Club, you look at how people respond to Finn Balor.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, I'd even go as another way to do it is you could have The Miz, you could have Bobby Roode in the main event. In the Flair role, you have Bobby Roode.
Yep.
Then you have The Miz. Then you put the Revival. So I mean, there's so many people in WWE today that could do it without going Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and John Cena.
I get the feeling that you're really not happy about him liking Roman Reigns.
Honestly, it may be the first 4 people he found in his phone contacts.
Oh, wow. He just hits a button. Yeah, that'll work. I wonder if sometimes if he gives the answers that he thinks WWE wants him to give, and then, like, to his friends, to people maybe backstage or whatever, he's like, hell no, I wouldn't pick them.
Right. Well, it's probably like, they probably have bullet points,
Right.
They're like, hey, Rick, here's some bullet points to help put us over. If you're ever asked these questions, here. Because, right now, but he's not going to say anything that is...
Yeah, he's not going to get himself kicked out. He just got back in. He's
back in, and he's on the health plan.
Yeah, I hope. That's probably the toughest part. Like, watching Flair and Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels now, and, all of our favorites that are just aging. And it's inevitable. It's just life. But, man, it's kind of tough. Seeing, like, Flair, he's just getting... I know Brian would be mad at me if I said it too deeply, but it's like, gosh, we get to the point where there's the passing of like Flair and Brett and Michaels. Those are going to be really sad days for wrestling. Jeez.
Well, I mean, the difference is those guys are guys that have been around. They've done their due diligence. You know, they've done everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's one reason that I was so kind of like torn about going to see the Horsemen, because I was going to try to go with Brian, but you know, like one of the reasons I was going to pay the money to get the autographs is because, you know, hey, you don't know how much longer, not to be a downer, but you never know, you don't know how long Ric Flair's going to be around.
That's true. That's true, and that's the tough call. Like, Vince McMahon eventually is going to die, and when he does, you're gonna see the idiots on Twitter that go, "Oh yeah, glad that old fossil's dead," blah blah blah, because you know they're keyboard warriors. But then the reality is going to set in with the industry that one of the most powerful men in the industry overall is now gone, and there's going to be a huge gap after he's gone as to like promoting and finding stars and things like that. I mean, granted, he's not the end all be all, but you got to recognize what these guys do. You know, man, this is going to sound mean, but if God forbid it happen, but if Ryback passes away, there's not going to be some grand movement to make a change in the industry. But you know, if something happens to Vince, I mean, you're going to see people talk, you know? People are going to start going, God.
There's a difference between a main story and a cliff note.
Exactly.
You know?
Well, I was trying to put it as gently as possible.
Well, I mean that's what you got to say. I mean, regardless of people's feelings about Vince McMahon, regardless of their feelings about him, when that day comes, somebody who has pretty much brought wrestling to where it is, like, has helped bring main story wrestling to where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he changed the business, when he changed the cartoon characters, the different things like that and stuff like that, the business changed with him.
Right.
You know, when the territories, you know, the business changed. When he started doing all that, from day one, the landscape of wrestling changed. There's going to be people that when he passes, they're going to be like, ding dong, Vince is gone.
Yeah. I mean,
you know, and then there's going to be people that are like, the Pope is gone. You know, like, it's just all your, you know, will wrestling continue? Yes, it will. You know, it's just like we've always said, what would happen if the WWE closed tomorrow? Well, wrestling will go on. There will be somebody that will fill that role. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's like we looked at it, like you said. You know, as we get older, the wrestlers we looked up to are getting older.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, it scares me to think that there's going to be generations that are looking up to Roman Reigns as that same person.
You think that? I mean, okay, Cena, I could see it. You know, Steve Austin. Well, no, I guess he falls in the category of Brett and them. But like Cena, maybe Balor, Omega, those guys, I could see it. You know, in about 5-10 years, that kind of thing. But do you think Roman Reigns would be in that category in about 5-10 years? I mean, because say what you want. I mean, look, I understand your thought process. I do. I understand where you and Brian stand on it. But in 10 years, is Roman Reigns the John Cena of that time?
I don't know if he can
crystal
be.
Ball like that, though.
I mean, it's a good question. It's a very good question. But with what's out there today, I don't think so. I mean, when John Cena came around, when he peaked at what he did, what competition did he have globally? You know, when John Cena went from the prototype to the gang rap, the rap star to this. Yes, he was going against other talent, Edge and Christian and Shawn Michaels, but those guys had already established themselves.
Right.
So, you're talking about Roman Reigns coming along the same time as Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura, AJ Styles, Bobby Roode, Adam Cole,
Bye-bye.
Kenny Omega.
I can only do that so many times.
Will Ospreay. And I guess Ospreay and Ricochet would be the next generation after them, but it's like when you have those names and then you put Roman Reigns in there, will Roman Reigns have a place? Oh, yeah. But it's just...
right now, let's say Roman Reigns retires right now. He's done, whatever injury, maybe he tears his quad. Can't recover. Does
he
he
hurts
get
his
in
gluteus maximus.
Right, he tears his sphincter. He can no longer perform. Does Roman Reigns get in the Hall of Fame today?
He will get in the Hall of Fame because of his lineage alone.
I'm a Roman Reigns fan, and I say if he retired now, right now, he doesn't get in. You got a lot of champs that don't get in.
But then we will beg to differ with if Roman Reigns does here I am doing devil's advocate. Can you say Roman Reigns can't be in the Hall of Fame if you have people in the Hall of Fame that have not held a world title?
Hey, if Coco Beware can be in the Hall of Fame, then Roman Reigns can be a Hall of Famer, by God.
I didn't bring that up. You did. That's just what I'm saying. Will he be in the Hall of Fame? Yes, he will. When will he get in? Is he going to be one of these that, like Edge, that as soon as he's done, he's in?
Right.
I don't know. Is he going to be one that's like Goldberg that, had a run, had fame, then goes and does his thing, and then after a while they're like, oh, yeah, okay, you can come in. Because you got to think, The Rock's not in it.
Well, and that's the thing. The Rock...
Or is he?
The Rock's not in the Hall of Fame yet.
So, obviously he's not going in this year, but, come on now.
Oh, yeah. It's only a matter of time, right?
Yeah, you'll put him in, and God help whoever goes in the year he does.
Wow. You figure The Rock goes into the Hall of Fame, Roman Reigns maybe inducts him, or is Steve Austin induct him?
Who'd you say? Who was the first one?
Roman.
No. I think Steve Austin inducts him, or Shawn Michaels, someone like that.
I could see Austin inducting
Mick Foley.
him. Oh yeah, there you go. That's the obvious choice. There you go. That's the one. That's the win.
The Rock and Sock connection.
Yep, that's the winner.
But we've already had that discussion of who, we've already gone down every year of the Hall of Fame and talked about who should be in and who shouldn't.
Yeah, that's true. And we're almost due. It's almost that time for us to do our Hall of Fame discussion. Eventually our 12 listeners will start telling us, "Hey, we want to hear somebody else." Maybe we'll get to do you think we'll get to 13 before we get to our third year?
Is 13 what?
Okay, you just shot my
fans
joke
listening?
Yes, you just shot my joke in the foot. Thanks, buddy.
Oh. Well, it's hard to get 13 fans listening when the co-host doesn't listen.
Ouch. Ouch. Our show is so bad, Rob doesn't even listen to it. Wow. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that.
Sorry, I was catching up on a text stream. I'm sorry.
Hey, real quick, kind of get all of our fans up to speed. UCW, they premiered another edition of Defiance on Twitch TV. So that aired this evening at 7:30 Eastern Time. Next Sunday, we will be doing an edition of UCW Radio. I have it on good authority that we will be speaking with the new television champion, Red Scorpion. This is going to be a great conversation. Can't wait to talk to the new TV champ. But you
Well,
can go
I don't know who you are, but that guy, Stan Lariat, is a twit.
Wow. Wow, jeez, oh flip. I happen to think Stan Lariat's a hell of a commentator and does a damn fine job. I think wrestling fans all around the world think that Stan Lariat belongs in the Independent Wrestling Hall of Fame for commentary. All right, that's a little bit much, but I think I still do.
Is that still located at the booth at Denny's?
It's actually right next to Virgil's table. And oh, by the way, no one's going to that one either. But yes,
Stan Lariat and Ryback will be in the same Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame of Nobody Cares.
Wow, damn. It's a hard knock life, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a hard knock life.
It's a hard knock life. No, I'm just kidding. It's fine.
So again, UCW is on Twitch TV. Defiance aired this evening at 7:30. It will be broadcast in replay format, both episode 1 and 2 of Defiance. That's the championship matchups, as well as Joe King versus Jimmy Flame, Sickened versus Tremor. Gosh, sorry. And so much more action. Of course, we also had MC123 and Wes Rogers. Guys, you get an opportunity, you need to check this out. Go to Twitch TV, twitch.tv/UCWForever, and go ahead and check out the videos there. I want to thank all the folks that joined us this evening for that event. And again, we're going to continue to be broadcasting as much material as we can. Next week, of course, we'll have UCW Radio, and we will talk to the television champion himself, the Red Scorpion. We'll even see if maybe we can grab a hold of Mr. Cross, get his opinions of the matchup. So, once again, we are at this position where I have to ask a hypothetical question, Rob.
What?
Are you ready to play What If?
Is it one of these what if games that I can count on three hands, like on both my hands, how many times you're going to say Roman Reigns?
Never mind. Fine, we're not going to play it.
What if Roman Reigns comes flying out of somebody's butt? No.
All right. This is a good one.
All right, let's play. Let's play. Let's do. Come on.
I saw on WWE.com they did a...
I'm listening. What are we going to play?
Really? We're going to do that, are we? Is that the bit? Okay, so WWE.com did a flashback moment with Eric Bischoff. You remember the pay-per-view Slamboree where Eric Bischoff challenged Vince McMahon to a fight on pay-per-view. Of course, Vince doesn't show. Eric Bischoff wins by countout, remember?
Mm-hmm.
What if Vince McMahon had shown up? That's my what if for you. What would have happened had Vince McMahon come to the ring and had a stare down with Eric Bischoff in 1998?
Well, one, Eric wouldn't have let it happen because of the unpredictability. But I think Vince would have won. It would have done good for Vince, I think.
I think legitimately Vince would have hurt him.
Well, legitimately Vince would have hurt him because the only thing that, yes, Eric does have, martial arts.
Right.
But Vince has also been in the wrestling business and actually in matches. It goes back to the whole thing we talked about that one episode about, if you were Eric Bischoff, would you have not let him in when they showed up to Richmond, or Norfolk? You know, like what would he have done if he challenged him to the challenge Vince? Well, what would he have done if Vince would have accepted on his television show?
Right.
Because all he would have had to say on his television show was say he'd looked at the camera at the end of Raw and gone, "Hey Eric, I'll see you Sunday."
Oh, that would have been gold.
You know, then what would he have done? He had to have ponied up. You know, be like, "Oh, whoa," and all Vince would have to come back and say, "Hey, I told you I was going to be there." You know,
Be interesting to see. I mean, because when you look at wrestling history and the Monday Night War, I think especially in today's wrestling world and today's attitude, you don't see it get enough credit. But Bischoff took a hell of a shot by doing what he did, and had Vince said, "Yeah, I'll see you Sunday," you'd have probably seen WCW officials collectively crap their pants.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just the repeating words because I can't get my thoughts together. But it's the what if game, that we've played for years. Like, what if Brett would have never left?
Right.
What if, the whole Monday Night War had gone different? What if Raw had been live from the beginning?
Ooh.
If Raw didn't do the live 1 week, taped 1 week.
That's a interesting question. I mean, if Raw had just stayed live every week, I wonder if they would have been able to survive when WCW went live. Because at that point, WCW, they wouldn't have had the opportunity to do the spoilers, but what they would have been able to do was continue with their product as far as the good wrestling that we were seeing. And I don't know that Vince at that time would have been able to keep up.
No, because Vince was still, if you remember, he was still at the tail end of that larger-than-life weird characters.
Yeah, like Mantar and the Repo Man.
Like, he was still bringing those people in because that's what he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
The proven person from somewhere else, he's bringing them in, and, oh, yeah, you're supposed to forget that this guy has already been 85 other characters.
Repackaging.
Just forget that the Repo Man looks awful lot like the guy who used to be in Demolition, who then looked like the Russian, but he also could be the Blacktop Bully. One day I'm going to meet Barry Darso and see Barry Darso could have a whole lot of money.
You probably already met him and just didn't realize it.
I mean, what if they do put him in the Hall of Fame as the Russian? They put him in the Hall of Fame as Demolition.
Man, as much as I want to see Demolition go in the Hall, when we met them at AWE, they were pretty clear that apparently that was not going to happen. So.
Right.
Which sucks.
Right. But, it just shows you, that the caliber of people that they worked with back then,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really does. It really does. Wrestling is, it's such a unique industry because you see these waves and these changes and shifts in how people view it. Like now, it's all about the athleticism and the way of telling a story seems to have gone the way of the dodo. And then back in the day when we were watching it the most, the psychology of what was happening in the ring was the story, was the match. So it's interesting seeing how it shifts.
Yep.
Well, Rob, we're coming up on that time where we have to sign off and say our farewells until the following week.
Well, fine then. I guess you don't want to play anymore.
Well, yeah, you don't like Roman Reigns. You don't like my topics. You make fun of my jokes. I mean, I don't know how to hang on to this stuff, man. Jeez.
Well, I can only, my mom told me to be nice.
Well, you failed at that. Jeez. God. Sometimes between you and Brian, it's a wonder I can walk at the end of a show.
Oh.
I'm gonna, cue the violin music. I mean,
Cue
sometimes
the Full House music.
sometimes these guys are just so cruel and so debilitating. You don't have to put up with bullying.
Oh. Okay, Stephanie. Next time.
How rude.
Next time DJ takes your clothes, just go get Kimmy Gibbler.
Let me just say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was I not being sensitive again?
Of the Fuller House cast, okay, of the Full House cast, Candace Cameron or Candace, is it Bure? Is that how it's pronounced? Still looks great. Stephanie Tanner, whose real name I cannot remember, still looks great. Kimmy Gibbler, yeah, not so much. Not so much. I don't understand, but I mean, what do I know?
And there you have it, folks. We talk on everything. Talk about everything.
Oh man, it's a whole new world here on Corner to Corner. Wow, Rob didn't even break into show tunes. I gave him an opportunity and he didn't do it. All right, well, Rob, tell them where they can find you on social media, buddy.
On Facebook at Rob Hefner, on Twitter at Rob Hefner C2C, and yeah.
Wow. Thanks for the enthusiasm. Appreciate that. You can catch up with the show at C2C
Blah,
Radio
blah,
Show.
blah, 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 blah. Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. C2C Radio Show on Twitter. Corner to Corner on Instagram. Corner to Corner Show on Facebook. And you can catch Brian at STRCP21 on Twitter and Brian Taylor on Facebook. I can be found at Stan from Krypton on Twitter.
Blah, 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 blah.
And Stan Grove on Facebook.
Blah, 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 blah.
Be sure to check out ucwforever.com. Go to twitch.tv/UCWforever for your opportunity to join UCW's Defiance every day if you wanted to. Right now you can see 2 free episodes. It's an hour and a half worth of wrestling action for free for you if you go to twitch.tv/UCWforever and check them out. They will be broadcast in replay format this week, all week long. I have to schedule them individually to make sure that they're done appropriately. So I'm going to try to set them up probably about 8 o'clock in the evening each night. So that's what's going to be the goal. That's right. You'll have an opportunity. If you're really that unhappy with what you're seeing on Monday and Tuesday, well, here you go. Here's an opportunity to watch something different. Following that, at UCW Forever for UCW. And that, as they say, is that. Quick shout-out to Eddie. We will see you next week on BeyondRingside.com, sir. Hope you had fun at PWX. And also, quick shout-out to Mr. Matt Denton. Glad to hear that you were home and recuperating, sir. It's definitely good news. For the guys here at Corner to Corner and everybody else that's listening, thank you so much. And we will see you next week as we go through Elimination Chamber and everything that followed. So have a great night, everybody, and thanks again for listening.
So we get on